Hey kids, it's Jurassic James, and on this Jurassic James Explains, we're looking at Rajasaurus. Now, I know I was leery on continuing these reviews, but with Jurassic World Dominion coming out, and there's so many new toys, new species, I had to do more videos. So first and foremost, I want to point out that when I went to Target and I saw this guy and this guy, I got super excited. I mean, like way more than an adult man should be about these figures. So I snatched them up, and here they are. So, and again, next week will be this one, if you're wondering. So that being said, with Rajasaurus, now my first experience with Rajasaurus was this one here, this little guy here, really little, tiny, teeny, tiny guy. So the idea is this is a collect A figure. And one thing to point out, I was doing a tour once in a museum, and a guy from India was like, "Are there any dinosaurs from India?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." He goes, "Why do you never hear about them?" I said, "Well, first of all, the American dinosaurs, are in the movies usually. The really, there's like a certain set of made men who are in the dinosaur world who make it to movies, right? But there's a lot from India, and Rajasaurus is one of the top members. Now, that being said, I want to point out one quick thing. The animal was officially described in 2003. It's believed that the earliest, the bones that were described were found, I think in the 1982, 84. And so they kind of were in a collection. Someone looked at them and go, "Oh, these are more important than they thought they were," which happens a lot. Sometimes people will find fossils like 1902, put them in a collection, and someone will later on come on and go, "Wait, these are different." It is believed that some of Rajasaurus bones or fossils may have been found even earlier than that, in the early 1920s, 1930s. But again, were misidentified because Abelisaurus, the group they're in, is a really weird group. I'm going to go over that towards the end of the video, but first and foremost, to point out this guy here. One thing to point out with the Rajasaurus and the Abelisaurus is one, they have tiny little arms, really little arms. And we often think of the Tyrannosaurus as having vestigial arms, but these guys really have them. Like, they're really tiny, and they're often depicted going kind of back and out because like they don't really have the same musculature even a Tyrannosaur arm has. Another thing to point out this guy too is that once you know about his family, its design makes total sense. But I will point out this little horn here on the head. That crest is, or not really crest, like bump basically, is something that's really seen in a group. So this is a very, very great model. My only concern about this model is that it won't stand up, and that is one of my biggest pet peeves. And I bought it online. But what's really cool about this too, the figure, is that it has this bumpy texture, these skin plates. The Abelisaur group are known for that. And I also want to point out that if they changed the texture around the body, that the scales on the belly are more rectangular, the scales on the back are smaller, and the large bumps every now and then. That's really cool. None of that is based on evidence. We don't have any skin impressions that I'm aware of Rajasaurus, but given their relationship to other Abelisaurs, it kind of tracks basically, right? Until we find the skin. But of course, the focus today will be on the Jurassic World model, and like I said, just so cool that they're making these figures of obscure dinosaurs. Now, for the record, I will always scientifically lean towards like these, the Collect A, the Papa, the Safari. Those guys are at least trying to be more scientific. The toy for Jurassic World are not necessarily that, because they have to, believe it or not, despite what I do on this channel, they're for children. So a part of it is like the play gimmick, engineering for design. So again, for example, having these tiny little legs, that makes sense scientifically, but toy-wise, not so much, right? So let's just start on the actual toy. So let me get my official scissors with Jurassic James and unseat them. Let's see, what do we have to cut to get it out of here? Oh, there it is, okay. So I like how they do like minimal attachment at this point. So just put the scissors right there, and cut that, and the whole thing comes off. No, right, the feet are pinned down. Alrighty then, so what's going on is many of the feet of the Jurassic World figures have these little pegs in them to hold them in place. So all you have to do is open the bottom if you want to not keep the box, and turn them, and they release, and turn and release. So, and then there will be a tail that's blocked away so people can't steal that. And there's that. Now, here we have you insert tab A into slot B, turn until click. No, I'm kidding. So, same argument, complaint, whatever. The tail's too small. That's obviously because they want to fit it into a box to ship out to many stores around the world. I get that. With the animal itself, you push this little, let's see. Oh, no, there's no button. You just, okay, so you have the feet. Oh, how do you do it? Let's see. That's not it. But, oh, it's the legs. It's the feet. How do you, the jaw clearly moves. Oh, okay, there's no button for that. Interesting. So, yeah, you just push right here and it does that. Now, the first thing to point out that this huge section on the foot is there, and we believe there were padded feet on theropod dinosaurs or predators. We find footprints that we see the claws like bird feet. They are more padded than like many modern birds. Um, that's more engineering. It has the three toes going forward, one dupla going back. Do know for the specimen known, they found like the back of the skull, some of the vertebra, some of the hip bone. Not so much this part, mainly the back part, which is still pretty good because in fossilization limbs can get knocked away, right? But the main thing I would question are the hands. Now, I like the fact that Jurassic World is trying its best to give them those dinosaur palm-to-palm hands. Not the raptor movie hands, but the actual that. So it's kind of twisting in. You can see on different figures, they're kind of leaning into that. But there should probably be 4 digits. And the one thing about Abelisaurs is that they are descended. Let's go over Abelisaurs. So Abelisaurs are, except for some in Asia, sorry, in Europe, they are Southern Hemisphere dinosaurs. So when Pangea broke apart, the northern half was like North America, Europe, and Asia. The southern half was South America, Africa, India, Australia, Antarctica, and New Zealand, right? So the Abelisaurs derive from that group, and they take over in the south mainly. We believe they are actually related to Ceratosaurus. Now, I've done many videos, I think 2 on Ceratosaurus. Let's see, I think I've done a number of animals in the late Jurassic Morrison formation. So you kind of know what Ceratosaurus is now. So Ceratosaurus is not an Abelisaur, but Abelisaurs are considered Ceratosaurs in a sense. So, it's a bigger group. And the way we define that in paleontology is the Ceratosaur group are closer related to the Abelisaurs are closer to the Ceratosaurs than they are to birds, basically. So when you're looking at the branching in family life and trees, the Abelisaurs lean on the more like reptilian older branch than the bird-like branch. So who are other prominent Abelisaurs? At least its cousins. So if I didn't mention it, Rajasaurus is from India, and the idea is that India at the time was an island. So today you look at India and it's like it's hugged into Asia, it's southern Asia technically, but it actually was attached to there's Africa, there's Madagascar, and then India was there with Australia on this side. So India broke off and then started going north. So it doesn't actually run into Asia to make the Himalayan mountains until like after dinosaurs die out. But at the time Rajasaurus is living, it's on an island. So why is that so important? Because there are other Abelisaurs that are on islands, one of which I think I did a video on already, was Magentosaurus, the Madagascar species. I like to move it. That's, sorry. No, I'm not. So, and in South America, the most famous Abelisaurs, I think, of all time is Carnotaurus. And Jurassic World has given us, I think, these 2. They have the giant one and the tiny ones, but I want these. So these are very prominent, well-known Abelisaurs. I'm going to have a link in the description of my Theropod page and website with all the toys, and you'll see the different groupings. Kind of the wrap your mind around this, think of it this way. A carnivore is a meat eater, right? But the group Carnivora are a group of mammals, so that includes like lions and bears and dogs. When I say dog, you think of either dogs and wolves and coyotes, that's like one group. When I say bear, you think of like pandas and grizzlies and polar bears and black bears, right? That's one group. When I say panthera or big cats, you think of lions, tigers, leopards. That's one group too. So in a way, carnivore is the overall arching group, but there's subgroups. Well, in Theropod, they're the predatory dinosaurs, they're a big group, and they're subgroups. So the Tyrannosaurs are a group, the Dromaeosauraptors are a group, and the Abelisaurs are a group. So the idea is that when you're looking at one animal or partial skeleton, you can look at their relatives and get an idea what it's like. Now, I myself refer to the Abelisaurs as the bulldog dinosaurs because they all have these like really short skulls. In fact, Carnotaurus being the most weird, its skull is almost as short as it's tall. So the idea is that you're saying, well, why is it so special? When you compare it to other dinosaurs, particularly like Tyrannosaurs or Allosaurids, they have a longer snout. The irony is how we find them. So if we had found in paleontology Abelisaurs first, we were like, that's the norm. And the others have longer noses. But in truth, we actually find the Tyrannosaurus first, the Allosaurus first, so we had to see it backwards. But the main thing to put on the big picture is, looking at Rajasaurus, these big armor plating, we're not sure exactly of the alignment because I believe in the 1930s, one paleontologist thought it was a stegosaur because of the armor plating. But in general, the Abelisaurs are known to have these extra bumps than that. Most a lot of paleo artists in the past would add extra spines and bumps on theropods, but with the Belosaurus, we actually know they had them in many cases. So anyway, that's kind of the big picture of these guys. But Rajasaurus is a very interesting animal. It's one of the name means princely lizard. Like, you know, think of how Tyrannosaurus Rex, T-Rex means tyrant lizard king. A Rajasaurus means princely lizard. It's the same kind of name basically in that sense. But the last thing we'll go over real quick with this animal and its relatives are its placing. I said earlier they were the southern hemisphere. There's a couple of species I think known in like Europe during the Cretaceous period, but most of them were all in the southern hemisphere. Meanwhile, in the north, we had Tyrannosaurus. So here's T-Rex, here's Albertosaurus, and here is Tarbosaurus from Asia. So the thing to remember, it's like a game war. They're like, you know, the Albertosaurus versus the Tyrannosaurus, you know. But the idea here is that it's almost as if it was an ecological split. So the Tyrannosaurs are known for the northern hemisphere, mainly Asia, Europe, North America, and the Albertosaurus southern hemisphere. So the bigger picture to me is we look at these guys and they all have tiny arms and they all have very truncated, crushing bites, right? That's convergent evolution. The idea that these two different groups have the similar designs due to similar, you know, ecological pressures. That's important to understand that for some reason the Allosaurus lineage ruled the Jurassic and part of the Cretaceous period in the south at least. And all of a sudden we see these two groups with short noses, short arms coming along. That's saying that it's a trend going that way. And some Abelisaurs, they really have tiny, tiny arms. Like they have, like they can barely move them. They have like they don't have all four fingers clawed. So you're seeing this kind of trend of losing your arms in a sense and having a bigger, stronger bite force. So that's the same thing that a Rajasaurus. Like for me, I obviously like species from other parts of the world, but I also like the fact that you're seeing multiples of a family. Now, and that's really cool to me because you can start comparing. Now, yeah, they're not all super accurate, but you can kind of compare how they look. And I'm going to go over that in more detail with Scorpiovenator next week. That being said, I can talk for 2 more hours, but I think it's not fair to you and your family. I will see you next week. We're going to open this guy right here, or Jurassic World, this girl right here. That being said, I'll see you guys later, and thank you for tuning in. And at this point, YouTube is saying, subscribe and see these videos and all the things. And yeah, you should subscribe and see these videos and all the things and share. People need to know this message. And also send comments and ideas and suggestions. I appreciate that because I know I'm excited and I know I can talk forever, but I want to know what you think. That being said, peace out.